and welcome to our look ahead to what the papers will be bringing us tomorrow. With us are broadcaster and journalist Henry Bonsu and former Trade Minister Lord Digby Jones. You're used to each other's foibles by now.
I know. I'm really concerned that we've begun to trend on Twitter. They're calling it a bromance. But the way he's been behaving before...
I thought they were calling us the odd couple.
No. I think given that Digby's full of beans today, we need to do not bromance, but bromide. Man needs calming down. I'm really concerned.
I was going to use the word coquettish, but I'm not sure it's appropriate.
No.
Let's look at the front pages. I think that's what we're here for. The Financial Times says Brussels is attempting to crack down on an Irish tax avoidance scheme used by companies including Google and Facebook. The Telegraph leads on speculation that a British man who died in Macedonia may have been infected with Ebola. The Mirror also leads on the disease and the government's decision to introduce additional screening at some airports. Britain is on Ebola alert, is the headline on the front of the Express. And the Metro says there are concerns that additional Ebola checks at airports could cause travel chaos. So it's with Ebola that we will begin, and this is how it looks on the Daily Mirror. U-turn over deadly bug. At last, Brit airports to screen for Ebola, and the U-turn is after only a couple of days ago, Henry, and the government was saying, no, this isn't going to be necessary.
Yeah.
And the World Health Organization hasn't suggested this.
No, absolutely not, because, of course, you can't tell whether or not somebody has Ebola, because the incubation period can be up to 3 weeks. So somebody could come in to the UK from any of the affected countries, be absolutely asymptomatic, meaning like Thomas Duncan, the guy, the Liberian national who died in the States a couple of days ago, didn't have any signs whatsoever of Ebola, none of the fever, the sweating, the nausea that people normally associate it when it's contagious. But of course, then 2 or 3 weeks into their time in the UK, then they could have it. So it could be useless, and that was what the World Health Organization seemed to be saying, as did the Defence Minister, I think, Michael Fallon. And then they changed the opinion.
Isn't it that it'll make us all feel better if we do something different?
Spot on. I mean, if you want irresponsible journalism, and at the same time something that propaganda would want to calm the masses, look at that headline.
But there's something to be said for having us calm.
I hate to say this, but Henry's right. You see, at the end of the day,
I'm right.
By the way, it won't happen again.
Okay, we'll see.
You know, at this moment, you can screen somebody for Ebola walking in the morning. They will screen okay, no problem, and 3 weeks later they'll be contaging everybody in Manchester doing this. Against that...
Or other cities.
Or other cities, do.
Yes, maybe. Against that, of course, you also have the issue where you do have, in a democracy, you have to say to people, by the way, we are doing something about this.
This is exactly what happened in the States.
Spot on. And in that way, the Daily Mirror is doing a good thing, because it's basically saying, calm down, it's okay, we're screening people. So in terms of applying the power of the media, which is what papers do, I think they're doing a good thing.
Well, from
in terms of, is it useful?
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at the Daily Telegraph, because the suggestion from this headline is that Ebola could already be here. Ebola may have spread to Britain because this man who's gone to Macedonia hadn't been to the infected countries in Africa, and he's now died from Ebola-like symptoms.
There are two issues here. One is it already here because somebody came in 2 weeks ago without symptoms, your point, and I agree with you, and now they're showing it, you're right. I would just like, actually, if I could, to just expand this just a tad. You see, one thing that we, in the wealthier developed world, notice I didn't say wealthy, because there are many wealthy countries not in the developed world.
Absolutely.
But in the wealthier developed world, who punch a little bit more of the punch in the
international stage.
What we've got to understand is that this disease in Western Africa, as we speak, is destroying economies. It's destroying humanity. It's actually taking away families talking to each other, meeting with each other, businesses doing work.
Touching each other.
If I may use the word, and I mean this properly, intercourse on a commercial sense, you know, on the whole essence of civilizations and societies having intercourse with each other and doing all this stuff. I tell you now, this disease is going to destroy the economies of Western Africa. And once that happens...
If we don't heed the warnings of the head of the World Bank and all these other international organizations, because this can be contained.
And then...
they've wasted time. They thought, it's a little thing going on in Africa, let's leave it to them.
You're so right. For the second time tonight, I'm going to agree with you, which is really worrying. and the problem we have is that's where evil men do their stuff. That's...
You mean a vacuum will be created?
Well, when you have people without hope and without help, what you have is that evil men come in and say, I've got the solution to your issue. And at the moment, of course, sadly, we see a lot of those people finding their so-called help in fundamental religion.
But they need the conditions to be right, though. So if you look at the countries,
and I worry,
Africa, like Mali,
and I worry that what we're doing, probably rightly, but we're worrying about a guy who died in America with great sensitivity to his family. I'm worrying about a guy in Macedonia and a bloke in London. And what I'm not doing is concentrating on the real issue of this for the world, which is you've got a whole sector of the world who is going to be so destroyed that we are going to see an enormous problem with rebuilding societies. And we've got to get in there, Henry, early.
Yeah.
We've got to get in there now.
Put the money and the people, the treatment centres, and help those countries. Because remember, one of the biggest problems for these countries is that their health services, their infrastructure had already been destroyed by 10 or 12 years of civil war in both Sierra Leone and Liberia. They were not in a position to cope. Look at Nigeria.
And with,
managed to lock it down
with
straight
respect
away.
to a Telegraph headline, of course I agree with this, and of course that is right, but actually, with respect, that's not the issue. The issue is what we're going to have, an important part of the world, fundamentally economically destroyed.
Let's just tell you.
And by the way, if the two of us agree on something, it might be right.
Yeah, okay.
Whitehall sources are saying this is very unlikely, though, that this British man who died in Macedonia on Thursday could have contracted Ebola. That's what Whitehall's saying.
Yeah, and it's not actually the issue. The issue is what's happening down there and where we are going to have 5 years on. What's going? You use the word vacuum, and you're right. What's going to happen in the vacuum?
Well, these countries cannot be abandoned either by the wider African communities or the global community.
Yeah,
I think they've got the message.
so right.
I'm going to move you on, but we'll stay with the Telegraph. Two more stories on the front page here.
Yeah.
For a place at Oxbridge, start with 2 A stars. This surprises me that this isn't already the case. It says students must score 2 A-star grades at A-level to get on courses at Oxford and Cambridge this year because there's great competition. There also, for lots of courses, they also have to take an admission test, which has been the case for a very long time.
Very much.
Why is this a surprise?
I think the reason why this is a story is because the Telegraph, the Mail, and lots of those papers fear that there's been an attempt by central government, by the Office for Fair Access, to try and, I don't know, turn universities against the elite colleges like Eton and the places where middle-class people send their children. And I think the reason why the Daily Telegraph is very excited about this is it's a reassurance, i.e. we're not dumbing down, there's not going to be a decline in standards, widening participation isn't going to mean lots of undeserving working class kids getting bumped up for social engineering.
Why have you used the word undeserving working class in the same sentence?
The reason why I've said that
you're a socialist bigot.
No, not socialist bigot. Yeah. This is why I love coming on the show with Dick, because he's got such a chip on his shoulder.
That's exactly why you used the word.
No.
You're very bad, you've got a chip on both shoulders.
Can we talk about Oxford and Cambridge?
Why working class? It's got nothing to do with the working class. It's got everything to do with the lack of access of opportunity.
Absolutely, but particularly
that's nothing to do with working class. What is working class? I came from the working class.
Yes.
Well, hang out.
Well, and it's fantastic.
Please do not use the word working class in the same
So you've abolished the term working class. Why?
Because it doesn't apply to 21st century Britain.
Doesn't it? So nobody's working class anymore?
Hey, by the way, there are guys working 24/7 on the line at Jaguar Land Rover who are paying middle-class income tax rates.
Yes, they are.
They're not working class.
Some of them are.
Do you think they're working class?
The working class isn't just about the money, the pound in your pocket. It's about a state of mind.
It's about socialist bigotry.
It's about the state of mind.
Okay. The next trail that we make to advertise the papers, that's going to be in it.
Oh, God.
Let's move on and talk about...
All I would say is I don't understand how that headline makes the front of a newspaper, because it's actually a statement of obvious.
It might be the reassurance that Henry's talking about.
Exactly what it is.
State pension fund running out of cash. Younger generations will receive a derisory state pension fund. Didn't we know that?
Can I tell you something? And I like to think we might just agree on this.
Oh, no.
Can I tell you
think Digby's pension pot's a lot bigger than that.
There's a little girl... There's a little girl born this afternoon in a London hospital or in a Newcastle hospital or in a Glasgow hospital. She has a 1 in 3 chance of living for 100 years.
And she'll be 80 before she can draw a state.
And if it's a little boy, it's 1 in 4.
Digby's now become Ban Ki-moon.
25% of all the males born in the Western world this afternoon will be alive 100 years today. If we carry on with a system, the whole system of approaching old age in the way we do today, believe me, we'll run out of money.
Let's look at why we're running out of money. It's saying here a think tank claims to have a serious flaw in the national accounts that will leave the government short of money to pay pensioners within 12
By the way, there was never enough money to pay for pensions in this country. So no one ever
It's
lived
just
long enough
because
to find out.
people died at 68.
And now we are
70
doing
years
it.
old.
Well, they did the decent thing. They died at 67, didn't they? I mean, you can't...
Especially if you're working class. and had
really?
heavy-
Hello.
Absolutely.
Here we go again.
Even today,
Yeah.
you know, men in places like Glasgow, Manchester die.
Eating deep-fried Mars bars, and that's my
69
problem,
years old.
is it?
Where people like Digby who live in chateaux. and,
please.
All right.
All I would tell you
But
is-
with the serious story is that people need to provide for a rainy day.
Well, and not only that, governments do. We have to get used to a society where people will work longer, where governments will pay more, and at the same time people will save more.
Let's move on
That's
to the
what that
FT,
really
because we
means.
are running out of time, gentlemen. Edinburgh shows independent spirit with Scott's version of a mansion tax. Beautiful picture there of a gorgeous home
I think
in
it's
the
Digby's.
countryside. Money to burn, it says.
It's only one of
John
mine,
Swinney, the Finance Secretary of Scotland, has has unveiled his tax plans. Now
Yeah.
Scotland can
This
raise
is the
those
man who said he'd
taxes.
confiscate BP, isn't it?
This
This
is
man who said he'd punish BP after the election, wasn't it?
that was one of the things I believe he said.
And now he's after houses, is he?
The UK's top. This is properties for over £2 million are going to have to cough up every year, aren't they? But just because you live in a big house doesn't mean you've got lots of spare.
I
ready
think it's
cash,
a
does
massive.
it?
I think there's an issue here that they should address, and they're going about it in completely the wrong way. So you are somebody who bought a house in 1973. It wasn't worth anywhere near anybody who would think it was a mansion. Today, because of inflated property prices in either Edinburgh or London, especially London, you're going to get past £2 million. And for that reason, for some reason, you're going to be punished. And if somebody says, OK, you haven't got the money to pay it, we'll wait till you sell it. If that's meant to fund health service today, you're not going to get it today, so you're going to borrow it. Deficit, hello? And if what you really are trying to stop is people coming in from other countries and spending fortunes, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million pounds, on a house you'll go and live in for 3 weeks a year, then tax them. And if you did that, I really believe no one will stop you. And they're trying to deal with a big issue, raise money, and they're attacking the wrong target.
The big question is whether or not anybody in a future government, a future coalition government, will do the same. Because, of course, this is the kind of thing that Ed Miliband, it would appear, wants to do, and the Lib Dems also want to do. I suspect it'll be quite an unpopular move for the reasons that Digby has said, although I suspect some in the socialist heartlands of the north would like that. There you go.
So, how likely do you think it is that we'll get it down?
Oh, I think
similar mansion tax here.
It might well happen because the SNP is a socialist party, so it probably will happen. When it happened down here, I think you'll get something happening, and I actually think something should happen, actually, but not at 2 million in London.
Well, it says that buyers of Scottish properties costing less than £324,000 will save money from April, because overall it appears...
Have you ever known a politician say, I'll save you money?
Of course.
But this man said he'd confiscate private enterprise, and he's going to save you money.
The suggestion is, though, that across the piece in Scotland, under these new tax-raising powers that they have, people will be better off, pay less tax than people in the rest of the United States.
I suppose it all depends on who you're talking about. You're talking about the average Scot. You know, if the average Scot is going to be better off if a few people who are in very, very massive, wealthy piles have to pay a bit more, maybe that will be a very popular policy.
I think what's excellent, actually, I do think, if Scotland could introduce some tax competition into the environment, then well done, because then other politicians in England are going to have to respond, and that's no bad thing.
We've had agreement, I can't believe it, on several things. It might not happen at 11:30, all sorts of things can happen between now and then, but they will be back, won't you, at 11:30 for another look at the front
We'll give me
pages.
medication in the next half hour.
Please do. Stay with us here on BBC News. At 11 we'll have the latest on the news that screening for Ebola is to be introduced at Gatwick, Heathrow and the Eurostar terminals. I'm going for a lie down. It's time for Sports Day.